Hello everyone, this is Peak Entertainment and we are back again, and we're now going to talk about boxing and do a fight review of the recent welterweight clash between WBC and IBF champion Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. So we'll be going in depth about the details of this fight, so if you haven't seen it yet, I advise you to stop watching now, go away, catch up with the fight, whether it be the full version or the highlights, and then come back to this review. Now, when reviewing this fight, overall I have to say it was a pretty ordinary, very rigid, workmanlike performance really from both fighters. It resulted really in a convincing points win for Errol Spence, and to be honest, there's no real case I can really build for Danny Garcia. As we all know, all the build up to this fight was really focusing on Spence. How would he perform following that really horrific car crash that he suffered a long time ago now? Will there be any drop off? Would this be the perfect time to expose any flaws or deficiencies within him? We do know that Danny Garcia is a very tough competitor. He's never been stopped in his career, and he has fought top level names. He of course beat Amir Khan a couple of years ago, and he's had recent bouts against both Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, which are both very close competitive fights. But Garcia's always been a very limited skill set with a very tough punch, and here I have to say he just really didn't do enough to make any kind of impression of Errol Spence. You know, all the questions were on Spence, but actually Spence was the more aggressive, energetic fighter. If we go through the particular rounds, he came out fresh, on his toes, with his jab. He looked a lot thinner, which I think you would expect following the recent car accident. But Garcia was very tentative, not really in a lot of punches. Spence looked in very good condition, very slim, very energetic, coming forward, forcing the pace, forcing the fight, and that would have caught the attention of the judges. He was using his jab very well, and when he needed to, he was throwing those big right hooks, but he just looked like he was the fighter who wanted it more. He just looked a lot more sprightly, a lot more energetic, and Garcia, he wasn't really getting tagged a lot, I would say, but not really doing anything special for me to really convince anybody that he was winning this fight. There were a couple of rounds that were quite uneventful. I'm particularly looking at rounds 2 and rounds 4 as well, which really neither fighter was doing a lot to make a impressionable effect in terms of who was winning the fight. No real big power punches thrown, no real damage really, I would say, overall inflicted by either fighter. You know, yes, they were very good. They were both using their defences very well, both with hands up, using a bit of head movement here and there, but there was just no real explosive impact or moments throughout the fight. And Spence, because he was the one who was coming forward more and pressing the action, he was the one who was looking more convincing throughout the fight. And I think really by round 5 it was clear that Danny Garcia was having to do something special in order to turn this around. Again, if we go through the later rounds, round 6, round 7, neither fighter pressing the action. Garcia had a few moments, okay, maybe I could give him, but nothing really special. Spence was still throwing more punches and showing a good work rate and energy, but Garcia just wasn't really doing anything. And again, I think it highlighted how limited he is in terms of not being able to make any changes tactically or in terms of the work output and the punch volume that he was using on here. There just was nothing special from Garcia coming back. Now, when we went to the 8th and 9th round, I think it was clear that the high energy and pace showed by Spence in the first half of the fight kind of caught up with him. He was backing off, the pace slowed down a bit, the intensity level dropped, and I think it was a bit of both, where Spence knew he had got the rounds in the bank and he was just conserving a bit of energy, and maybe the pace caught up with him, and this was the time that Garcia really should have forced the initiative and taken it to him, but he was just too tentative, just too cautious. He was in there, but he wasn't really coming forward and pressing Spence, and you could clearly see the pace and energy level dropped off of Spence. That was very apparent throughout, and Danny Garcia just didn't do anything in particular, and you could really tell even by his corner when they interviewed Angel Garcia late on in, I think it was the 9th or 10th round, and he even sounded a bit despondent at that point. He knew that Garcia wasn't doing enough to clearly win the fight, and at this point, for the last 2 or 3 rounds, the fight really petered out into nothing special. There were no really highlights or explosive action moments throughout, and Spence was just backing off, throwing when he needed to, and then he just rode his way to a comfortable points win. So that's really it, really. There's not really more you could say about this fight. Not really spectacular or uneventful. Maybe you could give Spence a bit of leeway. You would expect nothing too explosive following the accident, but I think overall he showed, particularly in those first 5 or 6 rounds, that he was still energetic. I think he knew he had to come out fast and make sure that Garcia knew that he was still very strong despite the accident. But I think it's more of a disappointment on Danny Garcia. He'll look back on his fight and think he really didn't take it to Spence and force the initiative and put pressure on when he should have done. So I'm not really sure where Garcia's career goes from here now, because if you look now, that's the 3rd prolific fight that he's lost. Okay, he's gone the full distance. He hasn't really taken a huge amount of damage, but he's lost. That's now Thurman, Porter and Spence, and those 3 are really the top of the welterweight division. So going forward, I don't really know what fights or what promise you can maybe look for Garcia. Maybe there might be a potential fight for Pacquiao down the line if Pacquiao gets past Ryan Garcia, and Pacquiao probably fancies chances more against Danny Garcia than what he would against Spence or Crawford. So there might be potential there, but other than that, I can't really say anything more. But as for Spence, I think it was good performance, I suppose, coming back from that car accident. And we're just going to go back to that debate again. The fight with Crawford, it's always there. Whose fault is it? Who's really putting up the barriers behind the fight? It's just going to go on and on and on. Will we see it next year? I don't know at the moment. We know Crawford's contract with Top Rank is ending soon. So what he does in terms of his fighting position in the next year or two will really decide that whether he'll join PBC, will he become more of a free agent? We will wait and see. But I haven't seen a lot of really hype and discussion about any forward movement in terms of making the Crawford fight. So we will wait and see. Spence may want another 1 or 2 fights before he feels he's truly ready to step in there with Crawford. But we'll have to see and wait in the future. I just wish boxing would just make these big fights sooner, and it would be better for them and the fans, particularly in this pandemic stage that we're in now. Just get these big fights and just make them on straight away. But at this moment, I'm still 50-50 if I had to decide any winner between Spence and Crawford. This fight didn't really do anything to convince me anymore, as neither did the Brook or Crawford fight. I still think it's a 50-50 fight that could go either way, but we will wait and see in the future. So those are my thoughts for now on a review of the fight between Errol Spence and Danny Garcia. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you think it was a good performance from Spence coming back off that long accident? Do you think if there were no accident and he went into this fight that maybe he would have made even more impact and maybe perhaps even stopped Danny Garcia? Were you disappointed in Danny Garcia's performance? You didn't feel that he pressed the action enough and didn't do enough to really put Spence under any heavy adversity? And where does his career go on from here? What do you think about the chances of a Spence and Crawford fight? Do you think we are any closer? Are we more further away? Do you think this fight will still happen? I'm still not sure at the moment, but we will wait and see as 2021 comes around what the state of boxing will be, and that will tell us really whether that fight will happen. If it doesn't happen next year, then I don't think it will, but we will wait and see. But that's it for now. Let me know what you think in the comments. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons and help me grow this content in the future for you. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, stay at safe distances, and I will see you very, very soon.